people, and a lot of people have taken time out of their personal lives to explain things to me. Like Rumpus and Dean and Farmer's Boy. There's been Big Blue and Barney and a few other different people have actually taken time out of their own personal lives to explain things to me, and wanting me to right then and there go, you've got to flip right through in there, but go away and look at things in your own good time and whatnot, which I have done. I've taken that time, and it's been a bit of a journey over a bit of time. But today has been my day to sort of unleash, and I hammered Rand Flat Earth and Nathan Thompson, Spurs Chemo, a couple of others. I've hammered them actually pretty damn hard, and told them all basically that they're lying fucks. They're not coming from a place of from a place of honesty. You're coming from a place of dishonesty, because you never present all the argument. You just cherry pick bits and pieces to suit your argument, just to win a debate point and win an argument, which is a very dishonest way of going about things.
Well, the thing with them is what's going on there is, of course, they have no arguments. I mean, all they do is make claims, particularly with chemo, is you keep hearing the same thing. Well, this has never been measured. This has never been demonstrated, yet it has. And, whereas on the other side, you will find people that sincerely will try to give you the science behind, as to why you observe what you observe, or why you measure what you measure, but you very rarely, if at all, see that on the flat Earth side, and that's what gets kind of tiring.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they just make assertions with nothing to back them up. Yeah, but Spurs is brilliant at it. He says, well, so we can all accept that we've never done this and we've never done that, and it's like, no, where did you get that from? He's that.
Spurs is the worst, because he'll say something like, "Oh, your opinion is just as good as my opinion." I say the Bible is correct, and you say this is correct. They're the same thing, aren't they? And he does that again and again and again. I just want to punch him. He's one of the most annoying flat earthers. I really would deliver. It's rather tiring.
Yeah, what gets tiring is when you hear from him and others that say, "Well, the curvature has never been measured." Well, Spurs, I have presented to you the analytical measurements that I've made, the precise measurements I've made. Jesse Kozlowski has done that. Jesse has gone to Soundley's Lake Pontchartrain Bridge and made measurements. Yep. He's gone onto the Salt Lake, made measurements. He's come and visited me, and I've showed him my test range and what I've measured, and he's also confirmed them. So, when you keep hearing this stuff, well, the curvature has never been measured, that either he is purposely lying, or he has a very short memory and he's ignoring the evidence or what has previously been done, and somehow resets himself every day like he has Alzheimer's. Every you can watch the same movie over and over, and it looks like a new experience every day to you.
Yeah, I don't normally accuse people of being liars, even flat earthers. I usually take the fact they're just competent morons with a bad memory and then a bad intellect and a bad character. But in the case of Spurs, there's something more going on there. He deliberately misrepresents things, and then Brenda said she caught him in a chat 2 years ago, where he said he knew the Earth was flat and he was just doing this for presumably for his religious beliefs or something. So he willfully misrepresents what's going on. And in his case, I think he is a liar. I don't make that accusation very light. There's very few people I accuse of being a liar, but I think he is one of them.
I don't know if all of them are.
No, I don't think they are. No. Most of them are just stupid. No, most of them are just stupid, delusional. They want to believe something. They've got reasons to do with their character, feeling alienated from society, feeling a bit of a loser, or they're religiously driven. those sorts of people, and they understand the science, and therefore, because they don't understand the science, they're free to believe what they like. And so those people, I think about 9% of flat earthers go into that group. And there's the 10% other ones who possibly Uranism are trying to make money out of it. Possibly Nathan, who don't believe it. I'm sure about that one. And then the people who are lying about. I think probably Spurs does believe the Earth is flat, but he uses devious techniques and lies in the process. So even with him, I'm not sure he although even Brenda says that he did know that, who are deliberately lying about things. There's that whether they believe on the Earth or not, but they use lying as a trick, as a debating ploy, and Spurs is one of them. So that's why I've got a particular contempt for him.
I hope a few people watch Sean's show and hear the message that I gave them to just be honest, and there's nothing wrong with thinking that Earth is flat, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. I came from a very simplistic mindset, Rumpus. Like, I'm a plumber, right?
No, plumbers have to be quite bright. As I say, I've done a bit of plumbing, and I thought, bloody hell, these plumbers, they've got to know their stuff.
But the whole...
And George knows his pipes, and Farmers knows his pipes, and I know about pipes, and I think it's quite tricky stuff.
But the thing that kind of tipped me over the edge on a simplistic level was the water is level, right? Now, being a plumber, I'm dealing with water, and it's level, and that's a very simplistic way to look at things.
It's not simplistic. Simplistic means it's oversimplified. It's perfectly simple. It's simple. Still correct. There's nothing simplistic about understanding water level. I think that's a simple thing, but it's not simplistic.
What's going on there, though, Bandsaw, is the fact that in your experience, you equate level to flat because you're just dealing with small areas and small bodies of water. But when you start trying to extend that concept to larger bodies of water, it just doesn't work.
I don't know whether anybody else has had this thought, but I used to love talking to Bandsaw as a flat earther, and now he's not. He's just killed my the best flat earther that I've ever talked to, which I don't like. But is it bad for me to think now, over the next couple of weeks, could I put effort into reconverting him into a flat earther?
No, don't even go down that road.
Well done.
That's disgusting.
So
That isn't even funny, Dean. You are just a nasty SOB.
Yeah, there you go. Carry on.
Just feel happy about yourself. In fact, you've converted someone. The power of your argument.
When a lot of people hear that simple argument, they go, "Oh yeah, there's something to it, right?" And then, unfortunately, and I wasn't one of the ones that went down the whole YouTube track of looking at the Oakleys and the Thompsons. I never went down that path at all. That wasn't my kind of scene. I did look at a couple of them, but I didn't really like the way they carried on, their personalities. Something got under my skin.
They're not nice people, unfortunately. I can't think of a pleasant flat earther off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Well,
you were the only one, actually. You hit that bang, so I think you were the only one.
Yeah, but having said that, I think what happens is a lot of people like myself, when they hear these simple arguments and cherry-picked arguments, right, they go, "Oh yeah, there's something to that." But then what I think the fault of a lot of people is they don't actually look any deeper into it. Where myself, I was just honest. I'm going, I'm just going to ask questions, and I asked, the right people, and people could recognise that I was coming from a side of honesty, and they invested time into giving information that I was seeking and looking for, and it all just at the end of the day just added up and clicked. And I think if more flat earthers had that frame set instead of just jumping on the bandwagon and the pack mentality,
Yeah, but my point, as I described what the sort of characteristics of a flat earther unfortunately fall into people who are alienated from society because they're failures, or they're confused by society, they're confused by science, and they feel as a way of improving their feelings of self-worth, they feel they can acquire new information, like conspiracy theorists do, because there tend to be conspiracy theorists as well. They want to feel as though they've got some special knowledge to sort of lift them above their lowly status, and to feel they've got acquired some special knowledge that everybody else doesn't know. And as well as that, obviously, there's the religious contingent as well. And so, though people, unfortunately, you're making an appeal to people to not be themselves, not to have the character path. So I'm afraid you're going to fail horribly in this request.
Unfortunately, with a number of a contingent of these flat earthers, there is a very mean streak there.
Yeah.
And it becomes almost like a cult, in that if you leave the fold, they are so desperately want to bring you back, and they'll be mean to you. I mean, they eat their own. I mean, my gosh, maybe a number of you don't know of this lady that Rumpus and I know of back from ED 2.0. Is Barbie was a flat earther, and she had a very large following. She had like 3,500 subs and had a regular hangout channel and that. And then Aquarius and I and a few others talked with her and got her to understand the heliocentric model and the
she wasn't very scientific.
Pardon?
She didn't understand science, did she?
No, she didn't have a very good, but she was curious. She was asking questions and willing to listen.
Yeah.
And she got a telescope, and I helped her with the telescope and that. And then she started, understanding the bollocks of flat Earth. And then she took down her channel and became, tossed aside the flat Earth concept. And my gosh, the flat earthers just ate her alive. They made her life miserable. She was headed to a nervous breakdown. And I worked with her.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I worked with her offline on Skype for several months, advising her to get off the internet completely for a while until she got herself together.
Yeah.
And she did that. And, she has since not come back or brought her up. She pops into Discord every now and then and talks. But my gosh, they made her life a living hell. In fact, she wasn't able to prove it, but it went to the extent that some of her personal property was getting damaged.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I was telling the boys before, George, some of the Globe people that know me, and could see where I was coming from. I was getting trolled pretty hard in some of the chats by the Globe side, and they were getting like really, really personal too at stages. And to their credit, I had the Globe side in the chats sticking up for me, jumping to my defense, saying, "Hey, back off, pull your head out of your ass. This guy isn't like the rest of them." And that was actually really cool to see that. Even though I was still on the flat earth side, I had people on the Globe side defending a flat earther type of thing, which was, it was quite a nice thing to see, actually.
Yeah, well, if we see someone who's genuinely asking questions, has an open mind, is trying to ask questions, listens to the answers, and even if they don't understand them or fully appreciate them, that's fine. People don't have to necessarily understand everything. If we can see someone who's a genuine inquirer, then I think we all have quite a generous spirit to people who perhaps haven't got the research or the knowledge or the education or something, but they're just genuinely asking questions and they listen to answers, then immediately our attitude, I think, is quite compassionate.
And another case in point that I think is really quite telling, this was back in ED 2.0 when Pete Shea came on a lot. Pete disappeared. Pete disappeared for a couple months. And nobody knew what happened to him. We were all wondering whether he had passed away or something. And I mean, you saw some real empathy. Even though we know Pete was crazy, we cared about him as a person. And we were wondering, we were trying to inquire, but you never found anything like that in the Flat Earth channels.
No.
You know, the Golders were actually really quite concerned about Pete. As crazy as it is, you know, on a human level, we kind of were worried about him.
I must say, it's funny you should mention that, George, because some of the Discord channels that I'm involved with that have taken me down other paths with some personal conversation. But some of the Flat Earth channels I was involved with, like even Jem Panda's room, his room is just as toxic as the Flat Earth rooms. To be quite honest with you,
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, it is just as toxic, right? But in that server, there's some fellow Aussies there. We've been out on the town, right? And there's pictures of us and memes about us. In real life, we've met up and we've had beers and all that sort of stuff. And there's pictures and they've made memes about us and all that sort of stuff. And I consider these people friends, right? Well, I've probably made 10 to a dozen people that I would consider friends and have no dramas inviting me around to their place. And I'm sure if I knock on their door, it's like come in, have a beer and all that sort of stuff. On the flip side of that, right, there is only one person in the Flat Earth debate that I could consider the same. And that actually says something about the mentality and the toxicity of the actual Flat Earth community. I think it's just very, very toxic. And the people, for fuck's sake, half of them are goddamn drunk or stoned or on, George Mill's favourite ayahuasca, whatever the bloody hell he's on half the time. It's just.
Well, I think they're often socially dysfunctional. I mean, people like Pete and other people, Nathan Oakley and Riley. I mean, they often are, unfortunately, if they're I mean, someone like Riley I regard as a sort of semi-compulsive liar. They're immune to facts, and they can't even reason very well. The Flat Earth is one minor problem they've got in many. They can't reason. They seem to be socially inadequate. They seem to be, as I say, because of their lack of, they're trying to improve their feelings of self-worth. They do this by bringing others down or trying to disparage society, people, institutions, everything in a desperate attempt to try and drag themselves up in their own view, that they are naturally sort of striking out all the time, and they're prepared to use almost any strategy to somehow improve their feeling of self-worth. And so that's why.
And what happens here, Rumpus, is I've noticed this not only on the internet but just in social groups, is you do become the group that you hang out with.
Yeah.
It is the group mentality or whatever. If you get in with a certain group of people, after a while, you learn from them. You learn the level of conversation, the type of words. If you're in with people that use what we call 50-cent words, you will learn those words and start speaking on a not such a street manner or whatever. You use better words, or to
because it is a cult. I mean, so you've got to have the opinion. It has more effect.
Yeah, just you become those that you hang out with. I'm a firm believer of you become who you surround yourself.
Particularly when they've got a strong identity. I mean, if you have a lot of mixed people, you associate with a sort of diverse group of opinions, but with a lot of different views on things. But here, they've got a cult with a very strong opinion on one thing, and therefore everything is sort of focused on that idea. That's what brings the group together.
Yeah, it's infectious, and that's all you hear. So you have no fresh meat, so to speak, to chew on.
And the whole point of their group, of course, is to attack society, science, society in general, which is mostly people. I mean, to believe what they believe, they must believe that the people they meet in society are lying to them, whether it's from teachers, geographers, politicians, scientists, geographers, architects, or they deny gravity. So, I mean, there's a whole range of people of the society. They believe they must be out to gun them. So the whole focus is on attacking other parts of society. So
it's kind of a reality television mentality too, if you know what I mean. It's all about the drama. It's all about the drama.
Well, they create the drama because they want to. They want to disturb the settled view of society. They want to disrupt it. That's the whole point. I mean, they believe that society is using, for some reason, they believe that the flat posing a model of us living on a circle is somehow part of some grand scheme to suppress us, keep us ignorant. And so they feel they've got to fight out. They're fighting with the force that they believe is out there.
The government's always lying, and it's lying about everything.
Exactly.
But even having said that, before I was even a flat earther, I knew my government was down lying to me probably every day of my life. About one thing or another. But not
systematically to oppress you. I mean, there might be governments not telling you quite by omission.
Politicians lie all the time in any government.
Exactly right. And I think everyone probably has that kind of view about.
But it isn't like the scientific community is doing this. I mean, scientists, want to be right. They want to try to discover and understand how the world works. Of course, there are bad scientists. There have been that we can't get around. Some people have, human failings and biases that enter into their investigations, but they get weeded out. I mean, we have found where there have been scientists and doctors discredited, particularly the doctor. Case in point is the whole thing about vaccinations causing autism, that sort of thing. They get weeded out. And what's particularly maddening is how these groups of people, these what I'll call quote unquote the flat earthers, conspiracy theorist types, feel that this body of work that has been developed by thousands of very good men and women over the decades and centuries that are much brighter, many of them much brighter than any of us here collectively, have dedicated their life's work, that somehow you can just toss this out and you have a better understanding of the nature of the world than this collective body of information that has been systematically honed and investigated, reinvestigated, massaged.
Kruger.
Yeah.
They're equipped. Their ignorance is more than enough for them to be equipped to be able to criticize or invalidate a whole institution that's been peer reviewed, validated in a society where they peer reviewed basically. They believe that they can ignore that, and their own opinion is just as valid. It's just like Spurs. He believes that his opinion, or what's written in the Bible, is no different to the opinions that are expressed by institutions and
but
science.
It's not. But that's the difference. He has an opinion. The institutions have facts.
Exactly. And even if you explain that,
not opinion. The other side is not opinion.
Verified, yes, validated, peer reviewed, established, objective, repeatedly observed. Yes.
Well, I don't see the Bible being peer reviewed.
And the point is that you can go out and do all the things that pieces of knowledge in general, not everybody go, but a lot of it, you can go out and establish yourself and verify yourself. But other bits are verified by other institutions. The only thing that institutions will agree on is what works and is valid. They're not going to agree on something based on faith.
Well, in the case in point, you take someone like Spurs, like today on Discord, he was talking about rainbows, that you can't have a rainbow due to reflected light. And I was pointing out to him very easy way to verify. Well, you go out and do this for me and show me the video. I mean, he has never, ever, I don't think, lifted a finger, try something on his own to investigate whether or not he can
George,
verify or falsify his thesis.
George, you ought to have watched a hangout I had with him, was it yesterday or the day before, in which he did say exactly that same claim. And he said he'd read it somewhere and he could not be bothered to look through his search history to find out where this article he found about it. Meanwhile, he was asked Carlos and Blue Science Marble, the gorilla guy, to go out and prove to him that you can do it by going outside doing an experiment on his garage, and he wanted it there and then. He wanted to see it, demonstrate on camera how you would do it. He couldn't be bothered to lift a finger to search his search history.
No, the moonbow.
Highly amusing.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'm showing them a very easy way to produce a rainbow artificially is to take a power sprayer, a spray washer, and put it in mist and just wave the wand around to put a lot of water droplets in the air, and you can form very nice rainbows that way. In fact,
I've done that with my kids. You can double rainbows sometimes. That's really cool.
And if the sun is low enough in the sky towards sunset, and you do that sort of thing, you can see the full circle rainbow. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
Or get on
anyway,
top
guys, I've got
to
go. I've got some more painkillers I've got to take and get some sleep. But we'll see you around the paddocks, guys.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, see you later.
We'll catch you later, Dean. See you, Thomas boy, and George.
See you, mate.
Too easy. All right, ciao.
And George, the thing was, he wanted reflected light, so he wanted something. You need to use a mirror or something.
Well, I told him a very easy way to do this sort of thing is get yourself like a 2 million candle power spotlight. These are very easy. You can buy them for about $20-25 US,
right.
And have someone take one of these spotlights, go on one side of the building, put a mirror, reflective surface at 45 degrees at the corner, and you can be on an adjacent side of the building where you can't see the spotlight, and have the light shined off a reflective surface, and then take a power sprayer wand and spray the water around and see if you get a rainbow.
Yeah, he said he would accept, and it didn't have to be sunlight. He would accept reflected light off a power.
He told me the same thing today in the Discord.
It's highly amusing, George, what he went through yesterday. So he's gone through the same thing, even though, and this is what Spurs does, unfortunately. This is why.
That's right. Yeah, he jumps from venue to venue, spouting the same nonsense. It's
even though it's been
even if you had convinced him, saying venue A, he's going to reset himself and go to venue B and go through the same procedure again.
That's exactly, and he's done that for years. Unfortunately, this is why I find him particularly contemptible.
It's very annoying. Very annoying.
Him and Pete Shea, Nathan Oakley, I think, are the three I dislike most. I think of a lot of them. They really are unprincipled and obnoxious and devious and practicing a deceit. It's just
I don't get Spurs at all. It just seems like this has to be an act on his part, but
driven by religion, perhaps. That's the only thing I can think of. He feels he's entitled to do this because he's doing God's work in some way, and therefore lying to God.
Thing is mind of God. Mind of God is based his whole thing on the Bible, and I was appalled the other day. I just happened to pull up a hangout with him and Chris Berry. Had a one-on-one discussion. I skipped through it. And Mind of God is just totally slipped back. Everything that Jesse Kozlowski and I had talked to him about and helping him with conducting this experiment that he wanted to do.
I did warn you, George. I did warn you.
He's totally tossed that out.
I warned you. I told you all this.
I know. Okay.
And you and Jesse were saying, "Oh no, we can't encourage him."
Rumpus. Okay. I'll stop. Just say, "I told you so, George."
I told you. I told you so, George.
All right.
I told you so as well. I repeatedly said I told you so. You remember we had several discussions about this, and I kept on telling you what was going to happen. You weren't. You were trying to be nice, George. This is the problem. You were trying to be generous.
Well, I thought he was being sincere and he really wanted to do this. But
I know.
In retrospect, he did not. It was just a ploy.
Yeah. I mean, although he may not have been engineered as a scheme to do this, but his attitude was such that I knew he was going to fail, and he might not necessarily have done it as a whole scheme to get you in some way, but I knew he wasn't sincere in his search for the truth, and that it all ended in tears.
Well, that indeed, ended up being the case, and is, he's spouting just biblical BS now.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. He firmly believes that the Bible tells him that the earth is flat, so it doesn't matter what evidence you ever present to him or going to present to him in the future. It is discounted on the fact that the Bible says it's flat, according to him.
And that's exactly how we presented to Spurs. I think it was not yesterday, but a couple of days ago, when Brenda asked him this question. He said, if you could observe something in the real world that happened, and the Bible said that doesn't happen, then what would you do, Spurs? Yeah. And then Spurs said he would go with the Bible, which is exactly the same answer that Ken Ham gave in that lecture, that debate with Bill Nye, which is when faced with evidence in front of him that was incontrovertible and what the Bible said, he would go with the Bible. And from that point, you cannot use the tools that we've got, which are evidence and argument and logic and reason and science and maths and geometry. Those tools are irrelevant to these people, to people like Spurs and Ken Ham, because it conflicts with the Bible. So it doesn't matter what you can. There's no tools we've got. No matter, even if you put it in front of their face, they're going to say, I don't know, it's satanic optical illusion or something. They will never accept evidence at all of any sort if it contradicts the Bible.
Yeah, well, I mean, it gets to the point of absurdity to the extent that if they believe the Bible said that there could never be any geometric form the shape of a cube, and you showed them a cube, they say no, that is not a cube.
They would say it was some sort of that's what it is.
It's an optical illusion of some sort.
Exactly.
Really go in there. It's really round or triangular, but it's not a cube.
So it's a satanic.
There's some perspective issues or refractive issues taking place here that is fooling us.
Yes, so satanic misrepresentationality or something like that. Yeah, exactly right. And that's what Spurs said. So I mean, this could be the reason he feels he's lying for God or deceiving for God, or he's just doing the right thing for God, even if it's ignoring what's being told, ignoring the fact that people present him with concrete evidence and reasoning. He's just going to reject it because he believes it counters his religious beliefs, and therefore he can just ignore them, and he's morally justified in doing so.
Well, the way I address some of this now is mind of God, especially, is telling us how evil and sinful we are, and I've been basically telling well, if I don't sin,
when did you do that?
Oh, just recently in some of these communications. So my response now is, if I don't sin, then Jesus died for nothing.
Well, didn't he? But he saved. Hold on, I'm not sure that works, does it? Because I'm not sure that any future sinning was off. I don't think Jesus died to prevent future sinning. He was trying to supposedly, for some reason, kill himself.
Well, I don't know. According to Christian religion, is if you accept Jesus as your savior, all sins will be forgiven, and
that's right. Yes,
heaven will open up for you.
And that's the only way. Yes, indeed, that's the only way of getting into heaven, irrespective of how bad you've been.
Exactly.
The only way of getting into heaven is to accept Jesus and to say, I've sinned, and that's all you need to do to get into heaven. Apparently, it doesn't matter how bad you've been.
Yeah,
that's all you need to do.
That seems to be the key.
Basically, you need to join the cult. This is what it always comes down to.
Yeah.
Join the cult, and everything's fine. Doesn't matter what you've done, how bad you've been. Provided you come and join the cult, that's it. You're in. You're sorted. Everything's fine. And of course, that's what every group tries to do. Has ultimately that philosophy. You can we'll have your membership, please, and you're in. And that's all we need.
Yeah, the way I view this, I read a quote long time ago, said, just remember, the keys to heaven also unlock the doors to hell.
Yeah, actually, on that point, years ago, I was actually a youth pastor in my church, and I was actually a worship leader. And so I had that same mindset. Now, I never believed the earth was flat, and I don't, and 90% of Christians will tell you that the earth is a globe. But I had that same mindset. Now, looking at actual evidence and things in history, and understanding that the Bible is not a history book, actually have come to the more of the logical realization that I'm don't think that God is real, and I don't believe that the Bible says anything about whether the shape of the earth is round or flat.
I think, the thing it goes quotes the four corners it talks about, doesn't it? I think at one point about the shape of the earth, doesn't it?
Well, that's where they get the firmament thing from.
And the earth they say the earth is still, I think, at some point, don't they? The earth is not moving. It's something about it not moving or being solid under your feet or something. Not quite literally is what I've just said there, but something implying that it's stationary and not moving. And therefore, that's another thing that it means you can't be.
Well, you can find little phrases scattered throughout the Bible that they collectively put together to.
And you can also find, no doubt, another set of phrases that contradict those. It doesn't matter because contradiction is.
Yeah, those you ignore, of course.
Yes, that's right.
Those carry no weight.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a Bible site or something. It's about 2,000 contradictions in the Bible, which is always worth having a look at. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing we have to keep in mind, the Bible is not a history or is not a scientific textbook, nor is it a math manual.
It does have some history in it and a lot of myth in it as well.
That's why I didn't mention history. Yes, there's always a certain amount of truth, and I don't deny that there is some truth in the Bible historically. I'm sure there is. I do firmly believe that Jesus was probably a real man.
Well, actually,
not the Son of God, not a God, but a man, and he maybe was very charismatic and influenced a lot of people.
There's oddly, the evidence for Jesus exists as an actual person is incredibly weak. The only independent evidence we got is it Josephus writing something, an account of something like in AD 72 or something, saying something about Jesus exists. The only 3 lines I think we've got as an independent evidence. In it, then suddenly after the mentioning of it, this is a Jew talking, and he says something like the glorious Son of God, the whole sort of Christian sort of, for about a paragraph or several sentences, as though he was some sort of Christian. I forget. This is a Jew talking, and then it's been established that in fact this is actually what's I think it's called
the Bible.
Interpolation, where Christians subsequently to this have actually stuffed in a few lines of Christian theology.
Well, of course, and of course we know that the Bible was put together until about 300 years after the death by Constantine. Had put together a group of so-called scholars, writing scholars at the time, to put a collection, and there was votes on what scriptures would be included and what would not be. There's plenty of gospels and scriptures that have not been included in the Bible.
Yep. So. That's right. I've got books on it. It's highly entertaining. Saying they would.
I think that a lot of flat earthers take a lot of certain scriptures from the Bible and take it like so literal that they place their own meaning on it and conclude that the earth is flat. I've actually had a conversation with Mind of God going through some of those Bible verses and actually telling him, hey, this is what the context is. This is what it actually is talking about. It has nothing to do with the flat earth at all.
Yeah.
Well, I overheard. I listened to the bit in Oakley's after show yesterday, where QE sort of got on his box with the poor old Dodo, and he sort of say, because Pete was saying, well, you're a Bible literalist. QE's going, getting right up on his high horse. No, what's a Bible literalist? What's a Bible literalist? And sort of, even the guys in the chat were sort of going, well, what do you think it means you take the Bible literally? And QE's going, well, no, I take the literal bits literally and the metaphorical bits metaphorically. And it's like, well, how do No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How
Make
low-
that determination as to which is which.
You are doing your classic cherry pick of a book. You're picking the bits that you think are literal and true, and anything else that you don't like the look of. Oh well, it's all metaphorical. It's not supposed to be taken literally. Well, you either take it all literally or you don't. Because there's no hand index in the back to say, right,
No red marker.
These chapters are literal, and ignore everything else. We just made it up.
There's no underlining or something, and this is the bit that we need to. Yes, it's not necessarily true.
Well, maybe Kieran's copy.
It
hasn't
hasn't been.
Maybe
It hasn't been indexed. It hasn't been indexed by colors like his Cuddy pasties.
Exactly.
Red
Maybe his
literally,
has.
and blue means this is metaphorical.
Yeah, maybe he has color indexed his own copy of the Bible and gone through and highlighted everything in one color that he thinks is true. It just shows the absurdity of it. You can't, you either claim that the Bible is the word of your God and you go by it, all of it, or you say no, it's just a made up fairy tale that was used to try and educate and control the ignorant masses. Boom,
My view on the whole thing is, it did come down from heaven via fax,
No, they weren't sitting there going, look, come on, look, we're going to print soon. We need the last few chapters. Can you get a move on these, God? The printers are ready.
Religion.
Wait a minute, just really quickly. There's I passed something to Pete. Yes, it might have been yesterday. I can't remember now. And I told him what I'm going to have to say, Fletch, is ignore it when it starts the religion bashing. But I'll just post it in the side chat. This video was one of the first videos that I saw a while ago now, and I think I saw it when it first came out. It was published in 2010, and it's just about this dude. And it's worth just the way that it was put together. I just liked the music. I liked his thoughts. I like how he was articulating it. I haven't watched it in like 8 years, but just a video about the universe and later on it does go into religion. But the bit about the universe I thought was absolutely stunning. I liked what he was saying and how he was saying it. I'll just dump the link in the side chat.
Yep, I'll save that one for later. Yeah, I'll have a look at that.
But I passed it to Pete because I wanted, because Pete's got all these ideas and all this kind of stuff. And this video is about a story about someone in Lincolnshire, and to Fletch and George, that's a kind of very farm orientated rural area in the west, in the east coast, in the east portion of England. But it's when he was stepping outside and he was having a cig in a clear night sky, and he noticed that he could see his hands, something that he couldn't do before, and he looks up and then he sees like the stars, and he can clearly see the Milky Way. And it's just his thought train from that moment on, and the magnitude of his change and realization. I just think it was really well done.
Yeah, the term you ought to be worrying about, Father's Boy, is inerrancies. Usually, it's the Bible inerrant. So if
yes, that's the one.
You would, yeah.
I'd
forgotten. I just had to go look at it because I remember there's a term in all my religious debates I kept on having to use, and I've bloody forgotten what it was. Inerrancy is the thing.
You have religious debates, Rumpus.
Well, I used to be on about a year or so ago. I used to regularly be on forum hangouts with
James
Hogtie and I've got a bit of a headache at the moment, so I'm bloody thinking now. Was it
Just?
No, Just was appeared. Yes, right. Just was on there as well. Brenda would occasionally show up, and we lost talking about Bible inerrancy and fighting with people like there's a stupid G-Man who gets it. We were criticising, and other people. There's a whole contingent of these nutters, these fundamentalists who we were slaying off all the time, and dealing with the Bible, religious issues and things I was involved in. And inerrancy was the term that we would regularly come up, and salvation, God knows what. And, God, it's just, and also genetics. Where I got an interested more just in. I got involved in genetics there as well because I was
Wow.
we had to. If you see, this is again examples of stupid people causing me to get interested in areas I wasn't familiar with, like the genetics. And these are making sort of claims about God was responsible with the various things that couldn't happen chemically. Evolution was being disputed, and then I had to go and learn up about genetics and things to be able to argue the toss with some of the. There's one particular guy. Oh God, I've forgotten his stupid name now. Bloody hell, God! So I got a bit of a headache. Who was making all sorts of claims about genetics and microbiology and chemistry, and to be able to, and that's Ruhif also joined in on some of those things, and so Ruhif and I used to get involved in these debates with these nutters, and the inerrancy, a term that used to come up quite a bit. But
these are fundamentalists. These are not just your run-of-the-mill.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, and Dean, I don't know if you know who Godless Engineer is.
Oh God.
Can I just say that you kind of sound like him a little bit? So yes, I do.
Oh, do I? Okay.
Yeah,
you got that little
engineer.
Yeah, you got that little. Fletch is a little bit higher pitch, but it must be that Well, you've got the same kind of pronunciation of words sometimes, and a little bit of a tone and slang to things that I kind of associate with Godless Engineer. But I have seen him on that Non Sequitur show, and
just get to do the catchphrase. Hey, what's up, heathens? How you doing?
Well, he actually interviewed me on his channel, and the interview is on his channel. I'll look for it and put it in the link, and we actually talk about that about God and my view on it and things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I don't mind just like any idea that, or any group or sect that, and I'm really sorry, Fletch, it's not that I'm trying to be condescending with you or anything, but any group that has no good reason to believe what they do, pushing that belief on someone else, I have got a problem with. And actively doing so,
and that's exactly what we talk about also.
Yeah, I absolutely don't agree with that. I have.
Yeah, that's exactly what we talk about also.
Yeah. I may watch that.
Yeah, JD Kane was the chap I was trying to think of. Was the some regular. It's about they started up his Hangouts again, so I'll probably be going back on it this Tuesday. Yeah, Godless Engineer. I'm not too impressed with him, I'm afraid. He makes
Rumpus. Can you name one real person that's not a celebrity within a given field that you are impressed with?
A lot. Most YouTubers I'm not impressed with. Yes, I suppose I'm a bit of a git in that regard. George impresses me in many ways. Dean, your knowledge of your 3D stuff impresses me. Fletch.
I must say, Non Sequitur show I've been very disappointed with as of probably the last half year or so. Godless Engineer and the other, what is his name, Kyle and a few others.
Yeah.
They're not the best hosts. No. They're not the best for that job. I used to enjoy Steve McRae.
Yeah, the trouble is he was a bit of an idiot as well. I used to occasionally have to find him being an idiot.
For the most part, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, and for the most part, he's good enough. But he does, for instance, he doesn't believe code. He doesn't think genes are a code. And he had a guy on there. Who was it? The guy who does the Made Simply, or the fantastic channel. Here's someone I'm impressed with. It's a YouTube channel called Just Simply or Made Simple something or Made Simply. And he does lots of videos on evolution and things. He came on there to debate, and I was almost on there as well with him to debate what the genetic code is a code. And Steve was making all sorts of stupid errors. And this guy was saying, "You're wrong, Steve," and he was almost repeating my exact position. So Steve, he's all right. Yeah, just JD Kane actually impresses me. Hogtie impresses me. Thunderfoot impresses me. There's people like that. There are some people who impress me.
The Thunderfoot guy that almost debunks kind of these new products and fucking claims.
Yes.
I love that shit.
Saying that,
I like is I don't know if you guys have listened to him at all. Is Aaron Ra?
He doesn't impress me. I've had a couple of debates with him, and unfortunately, he doesn't understand philosophy. And he's tried to get into some philosophical arguments, and he's a very pro-feminist. And I've unfortunately had to deal with him. And he while he's knowledgeable about
well, yeah, where all these guys fall down is when they start, deviating in areas that they're not really knowledgeable in. I mean,
he's given some fantastic lectures about religion. Actually, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, religion and on religion. Yes,
he's absolutely great about it.
I've got one of his books on religion, and it's quite fascinating. I mean, that sort of thing.
You've got his book, okay? Because
yeah,
right. That's interesting because we were slagging off that book, or at least someone on the. There's a show I was on with. I forgot his bloody name now. The one that hasn't been going for a year or two now. What's his face? Jesus, the one that.
Is that his name? That is a wicked name.
For God's sake, the show that Aaron Ra, Thunderfoot, and I and Hogtie used to appear on about a year or two. It hasn't been going for a year and a half now. You get lots of views. And I've forgotten this. Run by a guy who bugger it. I can't remember his bloody name now.
Getting old.
Yeah, it's because I got this bloody headache at the moment. I've had a headache most. It's because I was trying to prepare for the bloody Conspiracy Cats hour-long presentation. I was beavering away from first thing in the morning, looking at the computer, getting all stressed out, and then he said about 2 o'clock or something. He didn't have time, which actually I was really relieved. Unfortunately, they gave me a migraine in the process, so that's a bit poorly. Bugger it. Anyway, so I'm now the point I'm trying to make with it as well. Anyway, so I'm really at a loss now.
Wow, you are there, Rumpus?
No, I'm not. I'm right. I need some help.
Is it really bad that I'm enjoying this as well?
Whatever it was I was talking about anyway, so sod it.
Rumpus, I'm disappointed that I don't impress you, bro. I mean,
your honesty and you've made a number of comments and things that you have said that I thought, well done, Flex. That's an insightful comment. So when it's some of our other debates, so yeah, I impressed me with your honesty and so like Carlos, for instance, I'm very impressed with Carlos's practical. He's thoughtful. He gets almost everything right, and he does things and quickly gets onto subjects and tries to do a practical implementation of something or other. So there are a lot of people actors. Perhaps I'm being there are lots of people who impress me, but Godless Engineer hasn't done anything to impress me. And a lot of perhaps I guess I have quite high standards, I suppose. Because I suppose I'm quite self-critical, so perhaps I'm a bit mean on.
So I don't know whether George has told you. He came up with an awesome idea when we were chatting a couple of days ago. Unlike George, so he said, I just seen if George were listening. Then he isn't. And I added to it. I said we could do this as a team. But I couldn't include you in the team, Rumpus, at all because I think you would be incapable of performing well. Yeah?
Oh, thanks.
Now, the team is simply this. We have a team of flat earthers. We have a team of globe earthers debating each other in a fixed format that is predefined. But we both argue for opposing views.
Yeah,
it's a role playing.
I think you would be absolutely shit at that.
I think I probably wouldn't be very good. I do have problems doing that. So when it's based around sort of things like science and engineering, and I just I love getting my maths. George is exactly the same. George is really driven by the math and the logic, and similar. And I just can't not do that. I just find it repellent because I struggle so much to get formulas and I do equations and things, and you're fighting, you're trying to bring all your resources together to do some sort of a couple of maths equations and things, and then so to sort of somehow abandon that.
But honestly, it will do you well in life, and especially in some of the things that you're considering, to be able to, even though personally you vehemently oppose it, you can actually maybe empathise with it, but maybe also articulate a way where you're not lying. But you are arguing for it. That's a strong thing to do.
Yeah, I can do that possibly with subjects like taking different political view or something, trying to argue something that's a little bit more nebulous, a bit more ambiguous.
Just not science.
But if it's about science, I have a bit of a problem there.
Yeah.
I think I would do pretty well. I think I would make a good flat earther if I tried.
Yeah, I'm not. I couldn't actually judge how good George would be. He would either be absolutely shit or absolutely awesome.
I think George would be bad as well. I think he'd think he would be trying. Where George is always very straight bat. I think in fact I might be better than George.
Well,
George plays a very straight bat, and when George doesn't play a straight bat, he's been caught out a few times trying to do devious plans, and unfortunately George hasn't done very well at them when he's tried not being completely straight. He's been caught out and got himself into quite a bit of trouble on about 2 or 3 occasions when he's tried to be a little bit devious, a little bit sneaky. He thought he'd do something and he's been caught out, and he's not practiced. Because he's not practiced at it. He's like Riley caught him out at this thing, and Nathan. Whereas they do that all the time. This is what they do almost all the time. They're devious, sneaky, and trying to use the sort of people power, people convincing and sneaky tactics. Whereas George doesn't do that. So of course we're not practiced this, and so make a mess of it when we try.
Well, I think what would happen is I could probably do okay on a superficial level, but if I tried to justify flat Earth using science and math, I wouldn't get too far without it failing.
Do you know something? I actually think. I mean, Zinder is pretty good when he starts rattling out things and scattergunning and deflecting.
Yeah, but all you could do in that case is just like Zinder, is you just throw out baseless claims. Yeah. There's no substance. You can't have any substance to what your claims are.
Yeah, I actually think Carlos might actually do a really good job.
Yeah, actually, I think Carlos could be quite good. Yeah, being a bit of a lad and a bit of a funster and a comedian. I think he's got this sort of people skills. I think they probably will be quite good.
Yeah, I think he'd be able to do some practical examples.
I think you're right.
That would actually prove that something's not quite right here as well.
I'm sure that Carlos would be capable of coming with a strange device or something that looks as though it was doing something, but in fact doing something else.
Yeah, but if you look at like the kind of chat and debate scene. We're just talking about you, Carlos.
Hey, Carlos, you little devil.
Hello.
Yeah,
we're flagging you off.
Well, no.
Well, the problem would be here. For example, let's take an example. Suppose as a flat earther, I want to argue that the reason sun doesn't change angular size during the day is due to perspective or some atmospheric distortion created by the dome. I'd have to put out nonsense like that. There isn't anything I could come up with in the real world to put any solid basis to that statement. So,
What about a Fresnel lens?
Yeah, but what's causing that Fresnel lens?
Exactly.
God.
Exactly.
It wouldn't worry Carlos. He'll just say it was there somehow.
It's there because it has to be.
Well, I think one of the main arguments for all of that is they always take you back to, well, you need to understand what it is that you're looking at, and you don't know what it is. We don't even know what the sun is, so let's not go there.
That's right, yeah. We don't know what the space is, yeah. I don't know what the moon is.
Sorry, Carlos. We were just George came up with this idea a couple of days ago, and I thought, it'd be really, and then I added to it with we could make it into a team thing. And the whole idea is it gets too serious sometimes. It gets too heated, and there's too much animosity. So you have a team of flat earthers and a team of globe earthers in a team debate that's structured, where they're arguing for opposing points, and it's a case of, could we assemble a load of globe earthers that could really win a debate for the flat Earth? And
I think we should post that to Jose.
Yeah.
I think Jose would do that.
Well, we're all just.
That's actually.
We were all just thinking who would be good at this, and I just said it's probably. You wouldn't have Rumpus on your team at all, at all. He would not be able to. No. He would not be able to help your team at all at this shit. But someone that really would is someone like yourself, because you could do practical experiments as well to prove that we can have upside down shadows on clouds and all this kind of shit.
We all agree, Carlos, you would be good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if Rumpus could run for the flat Earth. That would be a good thing to see.
No.
No, I don't think he could do it. That's just
What
like
do you
me.
got on your
You just tell me-
glasses there, Carlos?
And what?
You
Oh,
got
so that was
something-
that's my YouTube channel that I started a few years ago called Mr. Gadget.
All right.
And
I
I
can
was
give
basically
Dean, I can give you Rumpus's argument on the flat Earth. Is, for example, sun disappearing due to perspective. The sun, doesn't change angular size because of the perspective. You utter moron.
I could go for refraction. I could possibly wiggle things about refraction because I could sort of justify those because refraction does such weird things. I could probably give some sort of argument for it doing something weird.
What, super duper duper refraction?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, that's right.
I will pull a Slick James and say the sun is where it needs to be for your experience.
Oh God.
Yeah, well, we have the personal suns, don't we?
Yes, that's right.
This might be hard. Wait a minute. We don't want to suggest this to anybody or Jose until we know that we can actually not look like a bunch of assholes attempting this. So, and we've not done so well thinking about these ideas so far.
Yeah, we need to do I don't know. I have mixed feelings about doing homework about if I don't know. I have a hard time with that.
Well, you know,
I can wrap my head around.
Well,
that.
wait a minute. You know, I've got the whole space is fake and everything CGI thing wrapped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlos, George was saying that there's a powerful light you can get for about $20 that would be good enough to do the experiment that Spurs wanted you to do about generating a rainbow with reflected light.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But you said you had a powerful anyway. I imagine you had a powerful light anyway.
Yeah, I have a work light, an LED work light, similar to the halogen lights that the yellow ones with the grid in front of it. They're like considered work lights.
Yeah. I had one of them garden lights.
I have a LED version of that. And it's
nice.
pretty freaking bright.
Are they white?
No.
Yes,
well,
white.
no. What you've got?
You've
got an LED version.
You want something with a wide spectral content of color in it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was thinking
so
white.
I probably need that one. I need to get an halogen light bulb.
No.
Yeah, that would do it. Yeah,
would it?
That's what. Yeah, halogen produces white light. Yeah, halogen produces a good white light.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Is like these spotting scopes that you get 1 million candle power, 2 million candle power, handheld things that have a 6-volt battery. Those have a halogen light in them.
Okay, so you say there's one that can purchase for about $20 on Amazon or something?
Oh yeah, or probably Amazon or go to Home Depot or Walmart or whatever. They have these things. They're handheld. They have 12 or 6-volt batteries in them and about 6 inches in diameter. The spotting scope.
That's what I was thinking. I thought maybe I need an halogen light.
Yeah, well, they have halogen bulbs in these things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously don't do it, Carlos, just for Spurs is.
Yeah, and you have to do it fairly fast because at most for full brightness, these things only last about maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I don't want Carlos wasting his
time.
The
bulb, sorry, the bulb dies after 15 minutes.
No, the battery.
All right.
The battery charge. I mean, the halogen bulbs draw so much current and energy, that you for a handheld unit.
Oh yeah.
You just can't have enough energy density in your battery to keep these things going for very long.
Yeah.
George,
they're not meant for continuous duty.
George, why haven't we got graphene batteries already? Since this was something that was prototyped ages ago, and I'm talking like 8 years ago.
Well, there's certain problems with that in solving well, not only in that and also lithium ion type batteries is there's issues having to deal with the electrodes, making cheap enough electrodes to make these things viable.
Well, you think it's just cost?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, producing graphene on a large scale is not cheap. Yeah, it hasn't been solved yet. You know.
Okay. Because I just
everything is so disposable now.
Yeah, I mean, I've just come from Silverstone, a fully charged show, which is all electric vehicles and sustainable energy and all that kind of stuff. And all these ranges of these batteries, I remember reading a paper on graphene, probably for battery tech, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and the density was just so much more than lithium ion. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
they,
with battery chemistry, pretty much your energy density is related to the surface area of your electrodes. So with graphene, you can imagine that you can have these tremendous surface areas, for the chemistry to take place on.
Damn. Well, one day.
Yeah.
You've been to Silverstone today, Dean?
Yeah. So it's on tomorrow as well. Richard. Richard Llewellyn.
Yeah.
So he runs the Fully Charged show. He started a YouTube
Yes, he
channel.
does. Yes, you're right. He does. Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of that because of my electric cars and stuff. So I went to the show and just to have a look at all the vehicles because we're thinking about getting either a Kona, an e-Nero, or something else. And we've also got a deposit down on something called a Unity 1, which is a micro electric car, which is being built at Silverstone anyway, just outside the gates. But it's a Swedish company. But yeah, it was an interesting
About a
show.
North Hampshire?
No.
Talking about a North Hampshire?
No. So wait a minute, I'll drop the link for the Unity 1 in the thingy, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's a good show, and if it's £40 ticket.
Get a Tesla.
But I can give you a ticket if you want, Rumpus.
Really?
Yeah, it's on tomorrow, and you can nip over because I bought 2 tickets for for today and tomorrow, but I'm not going to go back tomorrow. So
I might think about that actually. Dean.
Is it on circuit or off?
It's not that far. It's not that far away from me actually.
Isn't it?
What do you mean? Is it on circuit or off for farmers?
Well, I've got a residence pass.
Oh right, okay.
But I live in Silverstone. It gets me into certain things.
Yeah, no, right? Weird. Wait a minute.
Look.
Farmers shops at the same supermarket as me as well, so it's like, yeah.
What?
I know.
Yeah.
And it's a small world.
Oh yeah, no, it's small and flat. That's why we can find each other so bastard easy. All these ranges, it's just exaggerated. Yeah.
Right, because I'm not that.
Stop it.
No, they've got
Racing. Okay.
They've got racing on this weekend, haven't they?
Yeah, there was actually a race on, but this one's next to. There's another track, isn't there? Because you can, because if you go to the DVLA, you can get a number that you can present to them to take test drives in all the electric cars like the Jaguar I-Pace and all that kind of stuff. Now, what's interesting is to shuttle people from the main car park to the main area, the UK Tesla Drive Owners Club has got like 100 Teslas there, shuttling people inside Silverstone Circuit, which is pretty cool. To stop people using, dirty diesel buses, which is pretty cool.
I haven't been there since they did the redevelopment. Was it about 10 years ago when they put the new grandstand in and things?
It's GT racing this weekend, isn't it? GT3 and GT4.
Yeah, wait a minute. Didn't I send you a picture, a video of that?
Yeah, I forgot. I've got it on my calendar downstairs because I mark on there the events my residence pass gets me into because it's only about half of them.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I sent you the video of the Lamborghini going past, didn't I? By the way, for anybody that's interested, I've just dumped the Unity Earth project, which is a Swedish company making the Unity 1 vehicle at a plant just outside of Silverstone. The world's first social electric car as well. And when I say social, it's got some pretty amazing ideas built into it, such as for everybody that lives in a built-up area that doesn't have access to a charger, the entire battery pack pulls out. You can take it in the house to charge with you.
Right.
There's loads of really cool features. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's not the prettiest car in the world, is it?
I love it. I love it.
Really?
Each to his own. Yeah, I love it.
So farmers, presumably you don't have a pass to the Grand Prix then that's on in July.
No, I don't get in. It doesn't get me into the big races, so I can't do Formula One. I can't do the MotoGP, and there's a few others as well that they class big enough that even I'd have to pay. Yeah, come Formula One weekend, I stay at home, and if I have to go out, I'll go out on the motorbike because the roads just grind to a.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I forgot. I mean, they're just absolutely clogged up, rock solid, doesn't it, for miles and miles and miles.
They shut off the A43 that goes from Northampton past Silverstone, past Brackley, and down to the M40. That's all dual carriageway. But what they do is they shut it at Brackley and Toaster, and in the morning, all the traffic comes in either way to Silverstone, and then in the evening, it all goes back out the other way. So for 3 days, the A43 is sort of pretty much unusable for residents. But we all know the back roads.
Right, yeah, there are a few, aren't there? Right.
Yeah, well, that's why I have all the fun on my motorbike, all the back roads. Yeah.
What bike have you got?
I'm running an old 1996 Honda Dominator, big 4-stroke single.
What's the CC on that?
650.
Bloody hell, right, okay.
Yes, it's a sort of off-road style, but I've never taken
right.
off-road. It's bloody heavy.
Yeah, it's like a Dakar bike, isn't it? A desert
that
bike.
Sort of, yeah. But it's 23 years old now.
I'll tell you what they had. I'll tell you what they've got there, though, farmers. They've got a lot of electric bikes.
Yeah, I'm not the world's greatest fan, I have to admit.
No,
I like the sound from the engine and the exhaust. You know,
Yeah.
I broke my bloody collarbone coming off while doing some tracksing on my motorcycle. I came off at 30 miles an hour, banged my arm, banged my shoulder on the side of a rut, and then God, I had to drive home about 10 miles, broken collarbone, which was bloody pain in the arse. But
you give me a hard time about snowmobiles.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used to prat about on motocrosses. I think I fractured the ankle twice and broke a rib.
Yeah, it's dangerous, isn't it? Bloody off-road bikes and running around at speed. Speed hurts and it does you damage on things.
Yes, but it's good fun.
Have you tried mountain biking? I must admit, when I did some mountain biking around some of the tracks around here, it's almost as scary as being on a bloody motorcycle doing 60. When you're doing about 20 or 30 miles an hour down a slope on a mountain bike, on the verge of coming off, I find that just as much of an adrenaline rush as doing sort of 40 miles an hour along some bloody road off-road track.
I think we can have a quote here. You know, Rumpus, off-road biking can be bloody dangerous. Huh. A universal truth there. My God, surprise.
I worked it out. Yeah.
No crap, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, you're doing now.
Carlos, I just checked on my spotting scopes. I have 4 there, and what you want to look for the manufacturer's Vector, VECTOR. The 2 million candle power one is a 128Y or 138Y, and the 1 million candle power is a 124Y. And then there's also another company called Peak, PEAK. But the Vectors have nice spotting scopes. The 2 million candle power one looks like it's probably a scope reflector diameter of 8 inches, and the 1 million candle power is about 6 inches in diameter. And these are handhelds. They work really well. So if you want to jump through hoops for chemo, there you go.
Yeah, wait a minute, Carlos. Don't jump through hoops for chemo.
Yeah, don't do it for chemo.
Yeah, no, because no matter what you're going to do, he's not going to accept it, or he's going to find a way to dismiss it, and there's going to be no worth in it for him, I don't think.
Well, I think one way that I can make this more effective or cheaper. Maybe I just need a building and a mirror and use the sunlight itself. I mean, that's the whole argument. Reflected sunlight, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna do.
But then you're going to need to get the sun in the right place and your hose in the right place, and
Hey, that's what I'm good for.
Okay.
You worry about your documents and your pictures. I worry about that.
Yeah. Wait a minute, Rumpus. I could imagine you there for 4 hours trying to do this. Carlos will do it in 10 minutes. It's
Yeah,
that
I think so.
simple.
Rumpus was there 4 hours on a piece of paper putting numbers. I'm like, move out of the way. Let me show this stuff.
Yeah, Carlos is a practical man. Yeah.
That's what I do every day, just troubleshoot. So
I can be practical. I'm not that bad at that. But yeah, I imagine Carlos is.
You're a
I can be
physicist.
practical
I
in
doubt
less
that
than
you
10
could be
words.
practical.
Say again, sorry, George.
I said you're a physicist. I doubt that you could ever be practical.
I can do things. I built a bloody workbench and things in my garage, and I've done quite a bit of DIY and things, so I can do a little bit.
George, even his insults are long-winded. You utter.
Oi! God,
I'm here all night.
Yeah, how efficient is it to repeat a single word 20 times? Really, seriously.
But Carlos are very precisely structured.
That's right. Okay.
Carlos, I didn't expect to be getting such a load of jit from Carlos. Go and get your light.
Fine. No, look, I showed you. I already had it. Look. Excellent light right here.
That's not big enough. No, that's not powerful enough.
Look at that.
No, we need a bigger one than that if you're going to do it. Like I say, don't do anything. Yeah, don't do anything.
The one George had whenever he was, 40.
Right. Yes. Old style. Yes, or retro style. Yeah. Yeah. Don't do anything. I mean, don't do it. Oh, nice bike. Don't do anything. Yeah, that's nice. Actually, that's fun. That's a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. God. Yeah.
That's all original except for the two tailpipes. I had to order much new exhaust system because it rotted out. I mean, it's 23 years old.
That is not bad, farmers. That is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. 650. You managed to fit 650 in there. It looks quite light. It looks quite light, actually. Doesn't it?
It's about 170 kilos, I think, 175, something like that.
It's not light.
No.
No. It's top heavy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it does a bit.
Yeah. But it is a hell of a lot of fun on the back roads because it's not fast. I mean, you can barely do the ton on that. But on the back roads, anywhere between sort of 40 and 70, 80 ish. Yeah, it's a lot of fun because I've got sticky road tyres on it.
Right, decent suspension on it, actually. Isn't it? It's quite
well, it's a bit primitive. There isn't much you can adjust. That lets it down, but it seems to suit me and sort of my weight. So, yeah, there's only one little edge of the tyre that I haven't quite sort of cranked it over that far yet.
Wait a minute, fast forward about 2 weeks or something, because you've shown me that. Wait a minute, you'll be riding along, and because you've shown me this image of this bike, you'll be riding along, and there'll be this fucking nutter in this silent car behind you that's silver, sort of like beeping at you with what is called a pedestrian horn. Not actually an angry horn. So you're thinking, what the fuck is that sound? And you'll be looking behind, and there'll be this car flashing. It's like, shit! And then this chase will ensue. But it'll be me thinking, I've recognised his bike, I'm going to go say hello.
I won't hear you.
Yeah.
I have to wear earplugs because the exhaust,
oh god.
Well, the exhaust is loud, but my crash helmet's even louder, and it's either plugs or tinnitus.
Oh bloody hell, Bat Farmers! That's not good. It's all very well making nice noise, but you can overdo it.
No, trust me. If you spend enough time on a motorbike, you want to wear earplugs.
Well, I used to spend quite a lot of time, but I must admit, it's only on. I'd never had more than a sort of 250. So so that was some years ago.
Yeah. It is quite loud. I don't leave it warming up on the drive for very long. Well, it's because it's an air-cooled engine. You see, there's nothing to muffle the noise. I mean, it's got one silencer per exhaust valve.
Right.
Because it's only a single cylinder. It's only got a 4 valve on it.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice looking bike, actually. Yeah, it's better than I thought that was going to be. Yeah, but 650 is quite large for a bike that's you use off the track though. I mean, I would have thought, I the one my time it was sort of Yamaha. What was the classic scrambler? Oh, I can't remember. KTM or something. They were 2 jobs, which were.
Yeah, it would be the Yamaha DT, wouldn't it? The 125, 175.
Yeah, 175 was the classic one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people do take these off road, but it's too bloody heavy because if you drop. You put your back out, pulling the bloody thing back up again.
Yeah. I must admit, perhaps I'm not appreciating it. What was that, Carlos?
or your collarbone.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a big tank. Yeah, it's not really designed, I suppose. It's
not a very big tank that holds 3 gallons.
Oh God, right, okay.
It's the frame goes up inside there.
Yeah.
The frame runs sort of up there. It's all in front.
That's the countryside around Toaster. Yeah, because Toaster's very pretty, actually, isn't it, around there?
This is actually out the back of Silverstone. Probably halfway between Datchery and Banbury.
All right.
I just go out there and sort of find quiet country roads and.
Banbury's a distance away, isn't it, from Toaster?
It can be if you go that way.
Oh, okay.
It's only about 20 minutes for me, but yeah, if you go certain routes, it'll be 40 minutes if you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think Carlos's garden is as big as that. Have you seen? Carlos has got a garden almost as large as that field.
Oh yeah.
That's just the edge of a.
Yeah, he's just doing a search here. Carlo is
there you go.
Low power spotlights are they're anywhere from $18 to $25. There's Sears carries a lot of them. Performance Tool, Peak, Vector, all that. So you're in the $20 range currently for a million candle power.
I wouldn't spend more than $2 for a flat earther.
Well, you could do a demo of shadows on the underside of something, couldn't you, with a mountain shadow, whatever demo you were doing before. That make quite a good demo of that.
Yeah, I was doing it like in my workbench with a freaking little tiny flashlight, but still, I showed a pretty good example. But
yeah,
I just need to tweak it. I'm a little. See, this is my thing. I want to do content. I want to do videos, but I don't want to give garbage content like screen capture.
Sorry,
so you did this thing with the mounts, did you?
Hold on, I'm just thinking. If it's 8 inches, this thing, that's not a big light. You could actually emulate an eclipse and prove to them that you can generate a shadow smaller than an object. So if you have something like a tennis ball,
well, I've already done that. You remember?
Sorry, I missed that, George.
I did that with the sun over
a
year and a half ago. Don't you
I do remember that now, George.
Talking to what is name, Paul D'Arcy?
Yeah, I do remember now. You made just a little piece of wood, didn't you? A little circle.
I got a freaking softbox lighting.
Well, actually, it was a styrofoam ball.
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh, yeah. Right, I remember that. I think you did 2 things. I think one was a circle. Okay, and the other one was a ball. Right. Okay, yeah.
And then I had a target on the garage door, and I just moved the ball back and forth with respect to the sun to show the that the shadow would change size.
Ah, but was the penumbra smaller than the?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so simple. Just those concepts are so simple. It's just amazing how people get hung up on that. I mean, I'm just amazed. Just little things, and they'll throw them out like, I gotcha.
So the penumbra was smaller than the ball.
No, not the penumbra. The
umbra. I was asking. Yeah. So my point. You see, if you had an 8-inch thing and a tennis ball, you could have the penumbra would still be smaller than the shadow would still be smaller than the thing.
Yeah, but the thing was, I was using the sun.
Yeah.
That we got accurately the same parallel or nearly parallel rays as with the sun. I mean, that's what we want to demonstrate.
Yeah, the thing is that people don't realize the size of the light source. It has a lot to do with it, and in the distance. The sun is so much massive than the Earth, and
it has everything to do with it. It doesn't matter what size of object you use to block out the sun.
Yeah, right.
The umbra is always going to be smaller because the sun is 800,000 miles across.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was the penumbra I was trying to be smaller because that was what they were claiming you couldn't do.
People that claims that a lot of flat earthers will say it's like, any time that you have a shadow, the closer you get light source, the bigger the shadow gets. But we're talking about light sources that are not bigger than your head, like a flashlight, a light bulb, a car headlight. So that's the thing. They don't understand. Those concepts are just so simple to me and people like you guys, and they get so hung up on that.
Yeah.
The penumbra is not going to be smaller.
Even on if you had an 8-inch, if you had an 8-inch
penumbra
light,
is always going to be bigger than the object causing the eclipse.
yes, but it would still be.
It's the umbra.
No, not necessarily. Not if it's really close. No, that doesn't necessarily follow.
No, I think it does.
Hold on.
Because the light rays are come across. You're going from the left side of the source to.
You're right. Yeah. Okay, so what was it? Hold on. So what's the? Was there? Hold on. That claim wasn't that the umbra was going to be small, because obviously you can just show.
It's going to be smaller. The umbra will always be, but not.
Well, hold on. What their claim was that sorry, I forgot what their claim is now. That because they claimed that you could never have.
The claim is that you can't have a shadow smaller than the object that's causing the shadow.
Light source.
And that's because their normal experience is using small lights inside a house or whatever and doing puppet shadows or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, but hold on. So but hold on. How would yes? Hold on. You can, as you demonstrated, that's so easily to invalidate. I forgot what the bloody claim is now, even with the sun.
The claim was that you could never have a shadow smaller than the object causing.
They meant the umbra.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, but that's so easy to invalidate, isn't it? So
yes, it is.
I was thinking you needed to have a big light source, but if you can use the sun, yes, as you did, then I mean that's very easy. Yeah, I forgot the claim there.
You're overthinking it, Rump.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, yes, I've got a bit of a headache at the moment. I was so stressed out with this conspiracy cat thing I was trying to do.
What did he ask you to do, Rumpus?
Oh well, we were going to do an hour hangout or something like that on issues relating to Nathan and all the things that Nathan's got wrong, some of the things that Riley's got wrong, and I was going to cover about 8 of the subjects that they get wrong. I think the density, the curvature of space-time, possibly all their sort of housekeeping things. And also I was trying to
in only an hour.
Sorry,
in only an hour.
No, I know. This is the thing. We didn't really. I must admit, we haven't really defined what it was going to be about. So he just left me with a sort of okay. And I mentioned 10 subjects that I could do. The trouble is, covering about at least each one.
The thing is, Rumpus, you have to learn to limit yourself. You're like a kid in a candy store. You want to cover everything, and then you end up being for days.
Well, he was going to edit it down. So I think he was. I don't know. I don't know what I was. There's so many things anyway. Most of the subjects I was going to cover, I wanted to make videos on as well.
Well, when is this going to take place? This hangout?
Well, it was going to happen today, and then now it's going to happen sometime in the middle of next week, probably. And then he's going to edit it on Sunday and publish it on next Sunday or something.
So it isn't going to be a live show.
No, it's the edit. No, it almost was a live show, but now it's going to be an edited thing. So even when I
okay, all right. Well, limit yourself. You know,
what
I would say, Rumpus, is limit yourself to be 4 subjects.
Yeah, I know.
See how it goes. Then, if you have time left, then incorporate more. But
I know. We didn't quite agree on what to do, so I didn't quite know what he wanted from me. So, Carlos, what are you trying to say?
When I kick off my channel, my show, there's gonna be a Rumpus timer, about 3 minutes. Every time you come on.
You bastard! You're a real meanie today, Carlos.
Hey, Carlos, I think you and I can work together. I'm going to make an electric shocker that you can activate remotely. And we have Rumpus put this on his wrist, and if he goes over, you can shock him.
Everybody's picking on me.
We need to have release the Rumpus animator somewhere in there.
Dean, stop them from picking on me.
we need to back off from Rumpus. Okay. Hey, Dean, I appreciate you showing me your meat yesterday.
What?
Dean, are you there?
No, Dean's run off.
Oh gosh,
he missed the joke.
It's on purpose.
He'll
come back.
He's obviously done a runner. Right, I'm getting a headache.
Now it's awkward. Dang it.
Right, well, I've got a headache. I've still got a headache, so I'm going to have some.
Hang on. Let me give you context. Otherwise,
if you need a help with some Rumpus, let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Hey Rumpus, he
sent me Coriolis. That's another one I was going to do. I was going to do a full Coriolis analysis. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if Chris Berry mentioned Coriolis one more time, I swear I'm gonna go through the hangout and punch a face.
Yeah, speaking of punchable faces,
Well, what I meant by the help was something. I mean, if you need, I know you don't need help in terms of the theory or anything. I just meant in terms of offloading work. You need help to get you to the point where you want to be. You know.
Yeah. Thanks, George.
Chris Berry is one of my favorite flat earthers.
Actually, I find him, although he gets a bit naughty, he's actually one of the less obnoxious ones. He actually seems to understand.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Like, he's actually, I can actually have a conversation.
Yes,
with him.
you can.
And if I have a point, he will concede, say, yeah, that's a good. Like, he was trying to make a point about comparing the gravity and then a magnet and pulling different size metal objects. And I pointed out that the bigger the metal object gets, it says it's harder for the magnet to pull it. I said, yeah, because the other object doesn't have its own pull force either. So when you with gravity, both objects pulling against each other. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you have a point. Yeah, because he was trying to compare that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about mass. It's very special. The force goes up exactly in proportion to the mass. So that's why it accelerates. Yeah. The acceleration falling down is the same for small objects and big objects, because with an increase in mass, there's a proportional increase in the force. They're directly related to one another. So this is a very special thing. It's not. It's an unusual force.
Yeah. Well, he was saying that magnet will.
Well, what do you mean unusual force? I mean,
well, it's proportional. It multiplies up. Nothing else. I mean, something like it was you'd have to multiply up the charge. And obviously, if you could do the same with the charge, it's proportional. But the thing about the more stuff you add in that needs accelerating, the way you measure the acceleration with mass and gravitation is it also multiplies up exactly by the same amount. The force and the acceleration remains constant no matter what you do. Whereas other forces, if you had a charged object, you made the object bigger, the force wouldn't accelerate as quickly because the object's twice as big unless you double the charge.
Wait. Step back. I'm not on the same page here yet.
Right.
What?
It's unusual. The force of gravitation is unusual in that whatever, in terms of acceleration, is a constant, because if you make the object bigger, force on it.
No, it's only no. That's not right. It's only constant when you're near the surface. I mean, you get
I'm
further
talking
away.
Two things. I'm talking about two objects. That are attracting one another. Because if you double the size of the object, you double the force between them.
Yeah, same with electrostatic forces.
Well, no, but if you've got an object of a certain mass, you have to double the electric charge on it. So this you can't. Well, you can't, because mass is an inherent property.
I guess I'm not following you yet.
Right. With mass, whatever you do, you double the amount of mass. In other words, because acceleration is dependent on the force on it, but the inertial mass is the same as the gravitational mass. So you can't separate the two. And if you double the mass, you also double the force, the gravitational forces on it. So gravity is always
the charge. You double the force between.
The mass doesn't change. You can double. You can double the charge on an object, but you don't have to double the mass. Similarly, you can double the mass without changing the charge. But with mass, the attractive force of mass.
No, wait. You're running off too fast.
No, George. It's really simple, George.
Oh, I'm trying to. I'm still not on the same page.
Well, I'll explain it again.
What we're trying to talk about.
Right.
Are you talking about forces of attraction between?
Yes.
Two objects.
Okay.
Yes. In one case, you have charges.
And the great thing about gravitational, well, not so great. The special thing about them is that because acceleration is dependent on the mass of an object. So if you have two objects and there's a force between them, the acceleration is proportional to the mass that the mass is. So if you, the thing about gravity,
the acceleration is just the force divided by the test mass.
Yes, exactly. But the thing about gravitation is that the mass also
you have the same thing with electric charges.
No, you don't, because the mass, the thing that's got the electric charge, you can have a double the mass of it, or half the mass of it, or double the charge. So the acceleration will be different.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So
I'm just talking about pure charges, not charges that reside on a mass.
Well, they've got to reside on something, haven't they? You've got to have a charge on something, whatever it is that you're watching acceleration of. It's got to live on something.
Well, you could have a very small mass. You could have a charge on a balloon, for example.
Right,
that hardly has any mass. Then
right, okay,
it behave very similar to a accelerating mass.
Right, but then you could still then put double a charge on it, would accelerate twice as fast, or you could make the mass twice as big, and then it would accelerate half as much. Whereas the thing about gravitation, the acceleration is always sort of fixed for, you know, in other words, you can have a two.
So what you're trying to tell me is the fact in the case of masses is that what's causing the force of attraction is which is mass, is also the factor in determining the acceleration.
And I've said that about 10 times.
But you could say the same. Well,
no, you can't.
Never mind.
It's an innate property because the
acceleration
relates to mass.
A massless charge will accelerate in an electric field.
A massless charge?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing?
Yeah. Very close. I mean, an electron, the charge on the electron and the electrostatic force for an electron are, 43 orders of magnitude greater than that for the gravitational.
That's right. But you can still separate the acceleration. It's not an innate. In other words,
but it would be still swamped out by the mass, by the gravitational effects at the atomic level.
Yeah, but my point is that
I see where you're headed now, but okay, forget it.
Yeah, so it's very. I mean, this is what, and in fact, there are experiments to try to differentiate the mass that is the cause of the gravitational force and the inertial mass. There are experiments to try.
I don't think we use the term inertial mass much anymore, do we?
Well, it is a different thing in physics. It is a different thing, but in fact, they can't find a difference between them. So, in other words, how hard gravity.
Well, I'll tell you what. Just explain to the people in the panel what inertial mass is versus gravitational mass.
That's what I was trying to do. The inertial mass is the force, the force divided by the acceleration response. If you apply a force to an object with mass, you get certain acceleration. And then you say, well, okay, then you use a gravitational, and then so you work out what the amount of mass is. And it turns out that's exactly the same as the gravitational that causes gravitational attraction. We cannot differentiate between the mass that is the inertia, in other words, how reluctant it is to accelerate, from the mass that's also the gravitational that causes gravitation. They seem to be exactly the same thing. So the gravitational mass and the mass are the same thing, and the inertia is the resistance to acceleration. Now, obviously, with this space curvature of space-time, presumably they would always be the same thing because it is actually a result of a frame of reference change, and so that possibly helps the space-time curvature law. That is just there is nothing special about the mass. The gravitational pull is just simply to do with its inertial mass in this 4D space-time. But in theory, they could have been different if you didn't have the time curvature. They could have been different.
Maybe another way to explain this for the people is to say that an inertial mass is that property of matter or whatever that keeps something from moving instantaneously when a force is applied, that it's going to momentum. It's a source of momentum or whatever.
When it's the force,
they won't move instantaneously when force is applied because of inertia or inertial mass.
In other words, if you apply a force to an object with mass, and you divide that by the acceleration with which it responds to it, you end up with the mass, the inertial mass of the object.
That's what we call inertial mass. Yes.
So that's the test. So you apply a test force, it responds with a certain acceleration, and you say, that's the inertial mass. And it turns out that same inertial mass is exactly the same as when you determine the gravitational attraction from Newton's laws. You might think naturally they are the same thing, but it needn't be in theory. But they are exactly the same thing. The gravitational pull is directly proportional to this the mass that is the response to a force, and divided by the acceleration. But presumably that's a function of the fact that Einstein's theory of general relativity, when in fact mass is deforming space-time. There's no special attractive property of mass except the fact that it's bending space-time. Therefore, it's mass, the same thing about its inertial mass, the thing that's causing the bending of space-time.
It's really unfortunate that Musser put that piece in Scientific American.
Yeah.
Caused everybody all this consternation and confusion.
And there's a phrase where he says that sentence that Riley highlighted, where it says something like, the mass is not a force, is not gravity is not a force, but is the cause of the attraction. Now, attraction, I'm afraid, is a force. So he actually, in the same sentence, actually describes as an attraction, which is a force. So he's actually contradicting himself in the very same sentence. So this is one.
Well, it's much like we talked about here a few weeks ago in private, is regarding this whole thing, is that space-time is a 4-dimensional. You need 4-dimensional geometry to describe it, and we can think of in 3D space that force is just a projection from that fourth dimension into our dimension. We perceive it as being a force, whereas in the 4-dimensional space, it could be entirely something different that we can't see.
Exactly. So it's perfectly correct, I think, because gravity is what we're talking about in this dimension of 3D world. I think it's perfectly acceptable to say gravity in our world is a force, and that's what we call gravity. And in the 4D world, you don't talk about gravity, because the gravity is this projection into our 3D world, and it is a force. So, but the thing in the 4D world, as you said, George, then exactly correct. Whatever you call about the ending of space-time, what that's caused by mass, that's not gravity, that's something else. Gravity is the name we give to the force that it manifests itself in our 3D world. So, and that's not the way he described it. So I'm going to have a go at him about this. And he talks about attraction. Attraction is a force in the same sentence he calls. So I think he's been a bit sloppy with his language. I think it's a case of him trying to overdo the gravity, the way that gravity is cause of gravity, the origins of gravity, the gravitational force. He's trying to overdo it, overcook it to make the point. And unfortunately, as a result, he's actually removed he's actually misrepresented what it is in our.
Sure. It's a tough subject to begin with. Just trying to talk about gyroscopes or Coriolis forces. They're all kind of in that same category that without the mathematics, it's really difficult to explain it to the layperson as to how all these things work.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say, before we have my hangout with him, I'm going to challenge him and say, look, this is this sentence that you've got here in which you talk about gravity in this 4D world causing attraction in our world. And I'm going to say, well, actually, that attraction you're talking about in our world, that is actually what we call gravity. So I'm afraid I think it's going to be incorrect to say gravity is not a force and say that the cause of the bending of space-time in the 4D world is not gravity. I'm happy with that. But the thing that we have manifested in our 3D world, I'm going to call that gravity, and I'm going to call it a force. Even if it might be the result of reference frame changes or projection or whatever you want to call it, in our world, it manifests itself exactly like a force, even though its origins may not be a force in the 4D world.
Yeah, and if it didn't, none of our space mechanics would be working. I mean, it's all based on treating gravity as a force. I mean, celestial mechanics, space, orbital mechanics.
Yeah, so I'm going to challenge him on this, and but I won't do it. I'll probably give him some prime and say, look, I'm going to challenge you on this sentence. So get prepared for that. He might then say, oh, I don't want to talk to you then or something. But I'm going to tell him beforehand, so I don't just spring it upon him and say, I'm going to claim that, in fact, you're wrong in saying gravity is not a force. And in fact, it very, very definitely is a force. In our 3D world, is definitely a force.
Yeah, and I mean, if it wasn't, none of the orbital mechanics would work. We would not have been able to send the spacecrafts accurately out into space and to have them do it with the slingshots and all these other maneuvers that they do based on Newtonian mechanics.
Yeah, I suppose I ought to check up on that bloody Einstein's general because the general theory of relativity, that actually that ends up with a force, doesn't it? In the actual. Does it have the dimensions of force that Einstein's theory of general relativity has the curvature and God knows what else? Does it end up with having a dimension of force?
Pull it out. Yes, you can pull it out. Just like in special relativity, you can pull out of the equations when you start reducing them into the conditions that we experience in everyday life. You pull out, kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared, though it it's buried in the equation. And if you expand the equations out using Taylor series, you have all these terms in there that we use in everyday life. Kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. Well, not exactly. If you go to very high speeds, that falls apart, because there's higher order terms that you get to neglect if the speeds are much less than the speed of light. So the same sort of thing happens in general relativity. Is if you impose the conditions that we normally experience here on Earth in our everyday life,
But even if we go to the extremes, does it still not manifest the dimensions of the result of the general theory of relativity equation? Does it still not manifest itself as a force? Even if you include those extra tricky bits when you're a black hole or you're
well, things do start falling apart even in the general relativity once you get onto the order of galactic masses and stuff. It falls apart at the very extremes of the very small
but
and
does it have the dimensions of force though still?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh well, there we go then. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to challenge him on then. So look, even if you include the clever bits, the extra bits of general theory, does it manifest itself with the dimensions of a force?
And this is an aspect of a lot of the theories that on both sides of the equation here of the Globers and flat earth, particularly flat earthers, don't understand, is that in any theory we have constraints on that theory. The theories work within the parameters that that theory is defined for. If you start going outside the parameters that the equations are valid for, then the equations are going to fall apart. A lot of these theories are not all encompassing for every particular condition that you can find.
I mean, singularity for a start. We know the whole of physics falls apart near a singularity.
Right.
When your space and time start going stupid, then all your things to do with dimensions and time get potty as well. So,
yeah. Well, it's just the thing, one of the ugly things in electromagnetic theory that is always very disturbing is you look at the electrostatic force a point charge. If you as R goes to zero, the thing blows up.
That's always troubled that. Yes, and I'm glad to see that other scientists, they don't quite know what to do with this pointless, this infinitely small point charge. That can't work. It's all infinities, mate. So
you have a singularity there, and it's a very ugly truth.
It is. That's a real bar. You're absolutely right to highlight that one, George. That's a real killer. That's a real killer. That one. Wow. Yeah. So I'm going to try and give George Musser a kicking on this thing, and I might be taking on a bit more than I should, perhaps, but I'll give him some warning of it and see if I can pin him down.
Right, I'm going to bug out, guys, because I think.
Yeah, me too. Actually,
I've been while, so
time for me to go and enjoy my day. You guys have to get to bed.
Yeah, you lot too. Okay. Bye, people.
Have a good one.
You feel farmers.
All right.
Yep. See you later, mate.
And bye, Fletch.